Welcome to East Meets West. And today we have our guest, Sadhna Patel from the UK. And last time Sadhna was on the program, we talked about emotional intelligence for the leaders. And as you know, Sadhna have a legal background and, with experience in cultural change, transformation, and a whole wealth of knowledge in different areas. So today we have Sadhna is going to go a little bit more in depth with leadership, self leadership, especially today, because we learned that the most difficult person to lead is yourself. Now, if you master that, then you're able to lead others. So here is Sadhna, and she's here to add value to myself and to you. Sadhna, welcome, and thank you again for making the time to be part of this program. And we love having you. And for me, it's learning as in love in knowledge. But there are many people. Everybody's looking at how do they develop their leadership skills. And I've for this week I maybe had about 3 calls or so of people young people wanting to learn more of how they can grow as a leader. And so, having these programs is also helping those who are listening and those who's going to share it with their colleagues and friends, little tips that can help them to develop as a leader. So today program is for them that they get to learn self leadership, starting with you. What can you do to improve your leadership skill? Or if you have not started the journey of developing yourself, what are some things that people will need to start being aware of? So welcome. And do you want to say anything before we get more into this topic?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love your platform. It's just so engaging. Likewise, I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always learning, looking for new tips, and leadership is a big part of my life as well, right? So, and when I started on this journey, especially about self-awareness, it starts with you. So it's a perfect timing. Thank you so much for inviting me again.
You're welcome. So, Sadna, we're talking self awareness for self aware leaders. And I think there are many books actually out there about the self aware leader. I know John Maxwell brought out one that's talk about the self aware leader. And now, there are many other books talk
Yeah.
about self awareness. But what are your thoughts as to the importance of being self aware as a leader?
I think the importance of self awareness as a leader, it's like you pointed out, it starts with you. So, you become aware of who you are as a person, or I am as a person. And with that, I learned that it's becoming honesty is the key for me, right? So as you become a leader within it, you become honest about the situation or where you're heading, and also becoming more confident. And that's the key things that I'm taking away from becoming a self awareness leader. What about
Mhm.
you, Shanti?
Yeah, so indeed, as a leader, I think for an individual who really interested in developing, their leadership skills start with, do I know what great leaders looks like? Do I understand what traits or characteristics do they portray? Right? What are their value system? Right,
Yes.
and so as a leader, I think it starts there. So if you have not sat and written, what does a great leader look, what are the traits that great leaders demonstrate? And yes, one is the honesty. Your integrity is something that everybody who is looking at you, they wouldn't trust you if you do not demonstrate that you are a person to be trusted, right?
Exactly.
And so it's for me, that is one of the big traits I look for in a leader, indeed. And I'm presently going through a training too, and the results, actually, they did a poll to see what is the number one thing that people look for in a leader. And guess what? That was confidence. Right?
Yes.
That if you don't have confidence, nobody wants to follow you to, right? They don't trust, you know what you're about to do.
Exactly, because when you added a really good point. Know your values, right? So values is a big when you go through this self leadership journey, you have to highlight your values, and one of them was for me is like integrity, which you pointed out, and then from that, it was also developing your confidence, where you will go through where you want to project as a leader. And I think that that was a really good learning for me as a self leader. And the other thing that, which I started to realize was what are my strengths and weaknesses, right? Because this is the other thing when you become self aware, what are your strengths? Where are you going to stand out? What are your weaknesses and how can you change your weaknesses? Because often as a leader we don't look at that, right? You can become a leader of a certain type, but when you become a self-awareness leader without those kind of skills, you integrate those.
Hmm. Definitely. I keep hearing, play to your strengths, play to your
Yes.
strengths. And indeed, many of us actually focus so much on our weaknesses that we forget what we are really good at. And some of us keep working on those weaknesses for the rest of our lives, instead of keep building on the strengths. And I do believe you cannot be all thing to all people. You cannot be good in everything per se,
No.
right? So there are certain things I believe that you're really good at, and some of it you may be good, and as developing and growing you become even better. But do you know, for the viewers, do you know what you're good at? What are your strengths, strength area that, how can you even start learning or growing more in that area, instead of focusing so much on your weaknesses? And some people focus so much on their weaknesses that they get so demotivated and, depressed all thing, because they feel, I can never do anything good. It's I am not, I can't do anything. Everything that I do fails, or this happened, that happened. So they focus so much on what's going wrong than what can be going right for them.
Yeah, just picking up on that point, because this is where the learning happens, right? So from what goes wrong, the biggest thing as a self leader, what you can do is sit down and learn from that experience, right? So work out. In fact, I would say write down the process of what went wrong, because there's always an answer that comes about, right? So you learn from that, failures or whatever, and that's where the growth happens. And this is what I've seen time and time again, right? And it's also looking at the experiences you've had from that point exactly. I don't and again, it's changing, experiencing, and we spend so much time just working on our weaknesses, rather than building them up.
So I would not say that there are certain things that you should ignore, right? If you might be weak at relationships per se, building, right? But that is a key aspect of leadership, relationship, being able to connect with people. And if you are weak in that area, then you can go and learn that, because this is a part of, if you cannot connect with anyone, how would they follow you? Right? So I'm just saying there are certain things that you will have to work on. There are things that really you should not focus so much on, and focus more on the strengths that you have, and keep learning, keep building on that. And I think that is something that we were not taught about in school,
No.
right? And you suck at something, you're told, go, take classes, get better at this, go do this, go the extra mile maybe in doing more work on it or something. But maybe that's just not for you, right? And I think that this is somewhere that many times maybe in our schooling system it fails sometimes because we try to make everybody out to be the same thing. But then some of us are really good at playing the drums, right? And some of us may be really good at maths or chemistry or something else. And for me, I honestly don't see myself biology and chemistry. I don't feel called to that. Like some people who really passionate about doing that, and but this is the part, learning where your passion lies. What do you love doing? What also you're good at, and keep learning more. So if I love the drums, playing the drums, and I play the violin or keyboard, and I am not like great in those things, but I keep learning and I keep learning. And it's music is not my strong strength, but I do it in my church. I'm just saying, and I love it because I love instrumental music and all of that. But I'm saying that I'm not gonna go focus and everything into music, right? And to get better at that, because that is really not my goal. I don't want to be on some stage performing, right? That's not my goal. But we have to accept that some of us are good at certain things, and especially in schools as teachers, to be able to identify in our young age, help the students to identify where their strength lies and channel them into that. I remember, Sadna, a story that a true story of a drummer actually in the US. I saw his testimony, and he was sharing that in his class he kept like the teacher's teaching, and he kept knocking on the table like drumming. Then he get ready drumming with a pencil, and he disturbed the entire class. And what I recall is that after the class, the teacher called him, and he actually gave him a drumstick. And that he was like really young, and I saw that he grew up to be one of the best drummer there are in the US. And he played the amazing, he played all these different things. One time with his foot, both foot playing, both hands playing, and all of that, and oh boy. But I'm just saying is that if we are able to identify, especially in young age, in kids too, and we groom, we becoming leaders, we're developing even from young age to become the person good at what we do. And so the strength area, what are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
I agree because it's not encouraged enough, right? Because I mean, we grew up where we were just told, do this, do that, go this way, right? So that's how we were brought up. And now, the whole world is changing, right? And there are new leaders that are coming up. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, right? And they want to build right from the start because, in this has been my experience recently. Like you said, the younger generation, they want to become leaders very quickly, right? And when they want to become leaders quickly, they don't have the keys, they don't have the key learnings to progress, so they leave the organization, right? We've heard about the great resignation, right? So this is one of the problem areas of that, right, of self leadership, and they just want to move on where they're going to be trained up as leaders. And this is what I've found in my experience recently. What about you? Because it's also about being positive as well, I think.
Well, that is a whole conversation. The positivity that is needed also in a mindset to grow. But when we think of self leadership, and as people who want to keep increasing our self awareness, right? Because the more we are aware of something, then we are able to do something about it. But if we are not aware, we would just pass over things and would ignore things. So how do you develop your self-awareness? How can, people increase their self-awareness?
I mean, the biggest thing with self awareness is to understand yourself better, right? So you're looking at your feelings, you're looking at, how you are inside. Because when you have, for example, right, when you, I mean, I can take this morning. I had a number of things going on, and I completely overlooked my feelings of, like where I was heading, and I ended up in completely different direction, right? Because I wasn't thinking about how I was feeling. And when you start looking at your feelings and your emotions, right? Because it was a question of, helping a family member, feeling guilty about it, or getting on with your daily life. Like if you're having a meeting, for example, and you've had a bad start of the day, where do you balance that out? It's like detaching yourself and separating those kind of feelings and being aware of where you want to hurt, where you want to be. And like like you have a perfect example is like you get stuck in a car, traffic, and you've got a meeting and you're late. People are going to a meeting, they're angry, they do, and then they stay angry, right? Rather than calming and being aware and letting go and becoming focused. So, if you know what I mean.
Yep. So anxiety build up, and I don't know what you might be telling the other drivers on the road, and by the time you reach to your meeting, you can't compose yourself and whatever you're going to present, or being present also. But indeed, your feelings, and part of self-awareness is indeed how are you feeling right now. And I think it's a lot to do with mindfulness.
Yes.
That can I know how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling pain. Which part of my body is pain in? Just be mindful. And mindfulness also help where when you can actually tap into what you're feeling,
Mm-hmm.
you then have the power to actually do something about it. Maybe tell yourself a next story. Say something else to get out of that feeling if it's not something positive you're feeling right now. Like, whether it's in the traffic and you got angry and anxious, and you're aware how you start feeling. Some people start get panic attack, all thing when anxiety build up. Okay, what can I do, right? And I know last time we talked about breathing and all of that. So because you're aware what's happening to you, you can actually apply something to help you calm down.
Yeah, because mindfulness is such a huge subject matter, right? Because not many people will understand breathing, or not many people will understand meditating, because everybody's got different ways of doing things. Like for example, the other way would be for me when I, am like that. I would look at something. Like children always make me happy. Smiling face of a baby. I instantly, calm myself down. Or I'm in the if I'm in something green or something nature, you become real focused on being present and what you enjoy looking at. And again, that mindset, it usually, me personally, calms me down even when I'm stressed, right? I just looking, I see a baby in a pram and I'm like, oh wow, that's just cheered me up, and I've become real, rather than breathing. Because sometimes people don't agree with that, or not agree, but they don't know how. It's learning that we have to do, right? How to breathe, how to calm yourself. It's not an easy journey, because your emotions and looking at your breathing, all has to be learned.
Yeah. As you're talking, I thought of myself, okay, what do I do? And for me, sometimes I'm in a very stressful, and I think back about driving. Sometimes I'm at the stressful part of whether trying to cross or something, at the four intersection there. But I found that I sing. I don't know where a song actually pops into my head, and I'm actually singing. I'm not a good singer.
That's okay.
However, I sing to myself, and I find that I'm getting more calmer. So I think also it's what we feed ourselves, because when it's already there, it's easy to pull out,
Hmm.
right? And for me, I listen, if I'm not listening to my books, my audiobooks in the car, I am listening to some uplifting music, or some music that will, calm me or comfort me, or something I need to listen to. And then sometimes those same songs come back when I really need it to, calm myself down. And so, for those who are listening, what is it for you that when you feel all tensed and anxious, what can you do in that moment that is going to be effective for you to calm yourself down? So you're aware of your feelings. You're also aware of what excites you,
Yeah.
right? What makes you happy? And sadly, sad now is that many people can't answer those questions.
No, I can't.
What makes you happy? What makes you dance? What makes you, just feel excited? They can't think of anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, one of the things I personally do is like when I mean, this morning, honestly, I've had one of the most, hardest experiences because I had a number of things, plus my family members ill. So I had to get to the doctors as well. And then I had a meeting face to face. So and when you get anxious because you don't want to be late at your appointments, and one of the things I decided to do to calm myself, I've got this number of 5 affirmations which I have, and I carry those with, believe it or not, I carry them with me. And when I look at those affirmations, for me it lifts me up, and again, the music, some music comes into your mind. And I love I'm happy music comes into my mind, and it's a famous singer, so I love it. And I just start, it plays in my mind, and you start singing, and it does lift you up. But it's all the techniques I've learned, yeah, because it's not something that you will do overnight. And one of the things I'm learning, any practice you do about learning or changing or happy, you'll have to build your habits, and it takes up to 21 days to 30 days to do that, to change any habit. But you
Yep,
have to do it continuously and daily, right? Because
exactly. Some of my clients, I tell them, if within the 7 days or so, any day you missed and you didn't do what you're supposed to do, then you have to start back the 21 days, start counting back again. But indeed, you want to build a new habit. It will take time, because it also took some time for you to get wired into the habit what you have right now.
yeah.
But Sadna, what would be something else to help people increase their self awareness?
Right. One of the things is like, as a self leader, one of the practice, I mentioned this last time. Yeah. It's keeping a journal, right? This is where the awareness really happens, right? And I was listening to something yesterday and it hit home to me. I mean, everybody knows Dr. Joe Dispenza. He talked about specifically about sitting down with yourself for 30 minutes. And I was actually, because I was traveling, I decided to do exactly that. 30 minutes. And I just wasn't looking at anything, just focusing on my thoughts. And it was incredible what I was learning, right? Because my thoughts were going in a negative way, which I wasn't even aware of. So I had to pull myself back and say, okay, that's not good. Right. And this is again comes with experience and learning. So I wrote it down, just made a note of it. And God will go deep dive into this, right? Because I wanted to see where it's going to lead me and what learnings I'm going to have. So, for example, if you've had a conflict in your, with a manager or your leader, you have to look at why that's happened. What was the actual conflict about, right? In your what you are talking about or how you are saying it, right? This is the other piece, right? So you write your feelings down in somewhere that's safe just for you to write down and look at them, because it's not an easy thing to build, but once you start doing and learning, it opens up a lot of things. And also it's being honest with yourself, like I mentioned that in the first place, right? So you have to be honest about you, right? Because anything that you get into, say for example, if I'm angry at someone, this is a classic, right? If it's your colleague, your family member, whatever, or even your children, why is that? Yeah, because I always look at me, it's not them. They're reacting to your energy, like self-regulation we talk about, right? We talked about
Mhm.
that last time. It's like they're picking up on your energy and they're reacting to you. And I've learned that. I was thinking, oh my God, why did I react like that? What were the pushing? Like kids will push your buttons, right? And when they push you get frustrated. And you realize that it's you. You have to learn to manage yourself first before you can help them or anyone else, if that makes sense, right? These are the things that,
It
I
does. It does.
implement.
I have a Toastmaster speech to make, and it's about actually keeping a gratitude journal.
I've got one of those.
And so every day, I started it every day. I look at the top three things that I'm grateful for, and I write it. What I'm grateful for. Why am I grateful for this? So I go even beyond to ask, why am I grateful for this here? And so every little thing, top three, every day, write in the journal. So some people might find it like me doing a journal every day, but it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be anything too much writing or difficult.
Mm.
Maybe just start with a gratitude journal. What are the top three things you're grateful for today? Tomorrow you write was top three things you're grateful for tomorrow, and you keep looking for these things them that you're grateful for, because you now writing it's gonna force your brain to look for it, which you wouldn't be doing usually be doing on a regular basis. If people don't stop to think, okay, what am I grateful for today? And
Actually, I
go
can.
ahead.
And no, I was just going to add that's yeah, I do that exactly that, right? This is, but I wake up and I do three things I'm grateful for, right? I actually straight away, and then I also do at night when before I go to bed, all my good things, like three good things that have happened to me today. They could be simple. You might have had like a lovely meal, right? The best meal, and you're grateful for that. People forget, because being gratitude, they look at bigger stuff. It's the simplest things about, like for me, breathing is I'm grateful for that. Everybody, your family, people you love, I'm grateful for that, right? You're surrounded by so much simple things that you could start with that gratitude, and then you build on the bigger stuff, because that's where um, you are really aware of who you are, who you're becoming, the leader you want to be, right? And it's one of the things I would say: know yourself, who you are, who inside, more than anything else, right? Once you know who you are, you can build on that. What do you
Yep,
think?
definitely. And I think the journal too helps you with developing more positivity in your life, that you become a more positive person. It's like eventually you become the person who could see the glass half full instead of half empty,
Hmm.
because you've programmed your mind now to be seeing things that you are grateful for. Right, and this exercise is very powerful actually if you practice it on a daily basis, writing those things, because you're forced to look for it. And in that way, you're becoming a more positive person. And when you're around people who are very negative,
Yeah.
you're able to see the positive in the negative. Right? And your positivity also can help overflow on them and help them to see what you're saying, it's not really helping. and it just gonna make you get more nervous, or you're gonna make you get more tense. And the anger could build up in you because that's all you're seeing. What
Yeah.
is a good thing out of this here? When we ask ourselves the questions as to why am I feeling this anxiousness right now? What is it that I'm thinking that's causing this anxiousness? Why am I thinking that way? And so, in all this self awareness, you become your self coach, where
Yes.
you ask yourself the questions and then answer it to help you to get out of that frame of mind of what you're in right now. And all of this helps you because a self aware leader is somebody that is going to be able to keep, as you said, their emotions in check, right? That they're able to, nobody can just come and take control over them because they know what triggers them. They know what guardrails to put up. They know all of the aspect about them. So no one cannot come and, take over your mind and control you. Watch how they, some people, certain words just trigger them.
Yeah.
Or certain people, the way they look at them just trigger them, or in certain tone of somebody triggers. So if you're aware of all these things, right, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what makes you angry, all the emotions that you feel, what causes them for
Yeah.
yourself.
Exactly.
That is so powerful. That is where I think control comes back, where you know how you're feeling right now and
I
why.
Exactly. No, I couldn't agree with you more because you've just taken the words out of my mouth. So I completely, agree with that. And also with that, when you start building, just to because we're almost come to an end. So yeah, it's with that when you become self-aware, like you said, and you become a powerful leader. But then also you build a strong communication skills and with that you have empathy as well, right? So these are, and like we mentioned, confidence and mindfulness, that all comes as a whole another level. It takes you to becoming a powerful leader. And yeah, that's what I, that's what I've gone through the journey, and this is what my learnings are.
Yep. So I'm sure there are many books, there are many videos, there are many speakers talking about self-awareness and the importance of it. I think, maybe for me personally, 10 years back or so, I didn't hear much about these aspects, and you're hearing now. Be aware of your feelings, your behavior, why you're doing all what you're doing. When you're so much connected to what's happening in you, you're able to control also what you are going to be putting out. And so, Sadna, I want to say thank you that we get to talk a little more on self leadership and what we could start with our values, and the great traits that other great leaders may have. I mean, we it's the goal is not to be like everyone else, but what are the things also that made them successful and great?
Yeah.
What are those qualities that we also could learn from? And I do believe all the qualities are in us. It's if we're able to pull it out and keep building on them, those qualities, learning about our strengths and keep building on the strengths. The weaknesses, yes, there are certain areas that you might need to work on, but don't focus on the weaknesses. Focus on what you're really good at. Pull your energy and your strength, or the drive from the strengths that you have, what you're good at in whatever area that might be. And so, yeah, and keeping the journal was a good one that help us to become more aware of what we're feeling, writing those feelings down, and ask yourself, why am I feeling that way? What's causing this? What triggered this? And just keep working from there and answer the question. Then you get to go do something about it. But amazingly, that these are things out there. Knowledge is not lacking right now, And so I want to encourage our viewers that just start with one thing. Start with one thing. Sadhna, what
Yeah,
something
because
that you may have to in your closing, what you would like to say?
one of the things I want to say in closing, right? Whilst you're journaling, it's such an important point because it's not all about your feelings or bad feelings. Also, make sure that you write down your successes. So if you've had a success in a day, this is what I advise my clients. I said, make a success story, because this is what will lift you to guide you to the becoming a great leader.
Definitely. So, what are the goals also you have accomplished for the day,
Yeah,
right? And that, when you write those things and you look back and you see, oh, I've done all of these things, it energizes you. It gives you a motivation to go the next day, the extra mile, do the things that because how it makes you feel. But indeed, self-awareness and a self-aware leader is a powerful leader, and those are leaders that that move on to be very successful and have successful careers and successful relationships because they know themselves.
yeah. And
Yeah,
also they know how to deal with their emotions. They're not scared, because it's also about being vulnerable, right? And when you're vulnerable, you open up possibilities.
yep. The vulnerable part.
Yes.
It's also something that many leaders I see don't go there.
Yeah. It's hard. It's really difficult because it's not easy to look at your emotions. I know when I started, on this journey, I didn't want to go there because there was so many, you have to look at yourself and forgive yourself for all the mistakes you've made, right? And most of generally don't do that. They will look for blame and faults in other people, not within.
Definitely. So all of that is coming to the awareness that what happened is not who to blame or blaming themselves. But how did that happen? Why did it happen? And sort of solving it from there, and just not blaming themselves and owning it. When your team actually see that you've made a mistake and you own it, it also empowers them to own their mistakes. So being vulnerable, showing that yes, you are also human and you will also make mistakes. And again, that is a whole conversation by itself because someone will come and ask, oh, so we could go ahead and make mistakes for the rest of our lives. And so we could talk about that the next day on mistakes and how do you
Yeah.
deal with it. But for now, thank you, Sadhna. Thank you for the time. And yes, become a better or more self aware leader as we grow and we keep being aware of ourselves. So powerful. So
Thank you.
thank you and stay safe.
Thank you for having me. And love our conversation as always. I think we could have carried on for a while.
Oh, yeah, we could talk forever. You take care and all the best. Still be safe out there. I know many countries are, the guard is coming down. However, I would still recommend to be very cautious about how you go about interacting and what you're doing. So be safe.
Thank you.